Good morning. It's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself. And today I want to talk about resistance, but not in the way that I have talked about resistance before. I want to talk about chronic illness and how in many times we miss this, but chronic illness is actually the byproduct of resistance itself. So it could be the exact reason in many cases, and it's usually a buried reason as to why you are chronically ill. It's resistance. Resistance, the fact that you have resisted many things along the way has led to chronic illness. So chronic illness being the byproduct of the force that resistance plays in your life. So if you're interested in this video, give it a thumbs up right now, like it, subscribe, and let's get into it. So I'm going to start with a few examples that aren't chronic illness, because it's very, very hard to see when it comes to chronic illness. You're like, how can resistance be the reason I'm chronically ill? It's very, very tough to see, and this is why a lot of people miss it. So let's just take anything and everything. We're going to take a couple examples. I'm going to play them out so that you can understand then how it relates to chronic illness. And before we do that, let's talk about what resistance is. Resistance is actually the enemy. And it's actually there to protect this ego, this personal identity that you have put in place. Because it doesn't want you to get to your true self, your true essence, the true identity, your true nature. It is there to protect the created ego and identity that you've created. And that is the job of resistance. Resistance is your enemy because it's the enemy of the true self. It's the enemy of the true self that you were sent down here to be. And it fiercely protects your ego at all costs, to the death if needed. And that is why chronic illness can be so all-encompassing and so powerful, because it's a byproduct of one of the greatest forces that there is, which is resistance. Resistance is also your greatest teacher, because it points to, in every case, exactly what it is that is death to this ego and what is freedom to your true self, freedom to your being. And so it almost gives it away. It gives the answer away. It's like a compass. Where resistance is the strongest, we see exactly all the work that needs to be done. We can see it clearly. We need to do this work. We need to face these things. And resistance points directly at it. True north, an infallible compass. And yet, we don't understand this or recognize it, that actually resistance is our teacher, because it's pointing to exactly what we need to change in order, to ascend, in order to become free, in order to heal ourselves in this case, but in order to do anything. So we're going to use a couple other examples first, because I think this is a really hard concept to understand, and this eluded me for years and years and years. This is very difficult to understand. Most times when people talk about resistance, they talk about resisting the chronic illness itself and resistance towards the symptoms, which I have many videos on. And this is an important key, but this is not the video I'm doing today. This is not the way. I'm not talking about resistance to the illness or resistance to the symptoms themselves in chronic illness. I'm talking about resistance to your true self, resisting your true nature, your true calling, your true being, your true identity, resisting your trueness of who you are. And when we resist who we are, our body screams as messengers, as a byproduct. If we have resisted ourselves, our truest selves for long enough, then our body screams. We start to see various forms in our life of addiction, chronic illness, falling apart, suffering in many different ways. It could be a physical illness. It could be through anxiety. It could be through depression. It could be through losing people in your life or relationships losing jobs, getting off track. All forms of lower vibrations, and this lower vibrations that we live in are the byproduct really of resistance, which is we're resisting who we are. We're resisting our truest nature, the truest versions of ourselves. And when we do that long enough, bad things happen in our life. And until we face the resistance, which actually is the teacher and which actually is pointing to the exact things, it's not just giving you clues, it's giving you the exact answer to the riddle that you're looking for. We can't solve this problem. So resistance is always here. It is always at work. It's a force in our life that's always at work. We can't really see it. We can't not really define it. But it's always there. It's always at play in every situation. And it works to protect this identity that we've created, this ego that we have, and to keep us from being who we truly are and to meet the needs that we truly have in this lifetime. So it often plays out in little ways every single day. And we don't really see it. It's this invisible force, this resistance, and we often submit to it. It's very hard to challenge resistance. Resistance is uncomfortable. It's painful. It takes work and willpower and grit and dedication. And it's this enemy that is, it's stronger than you. It will always rise to the challenge. It's an enemy that's bigger and stronger than us, that never runs out of energy, that shows up every single time we try to get around it or get over it or get through it. And it's always there. So a lot of people just submit and give in to the resistance. But you can beat resistance. And when we start to beat this resistance, that is when we start to become who we truly are. And when we take back the power of who we truly are and we shatter these identities of our ego, we shatter this, false self that we have, and these patterns and beliefs and identities that we've built our life around, and that really keep us stuck in these chronic patterns that are creating the problems that you have in your life, including chronic illness. Then we can start to unwind it and unravel it and take our power back, and in turn take our life back, take our power back. Oh, I just found some sea glass. I'm going to stop and pick that up. I don't really look for signs or ask for signs, but sea glass was one of the things I used to ask for as a sign. So when I find it, when I'm not looking for it, I haven't asked for a sign, and I just see it, I definitely know I'm on the right track. And so I think this video is timely, and it's exactly on the right track for those of you who need to hear this message right now. Okay, so let's take a couple of examples here. Let's take smoking, because it's an easy example. You're smoking and you want to quit. You come up against this invisible force of resistance. Resistance says no. Resistance says you're a smoker. Resistance says this is our pattern. Resistance says it's too uncomfortable. Resistance says you can't beat me, right? Resistance blocks the person who's the smoker from trying to quit smoking. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason. There's a force that's stronger. This force is called resistance. Resistance to your true self, your true power, your true nature. And when you can access your true power and your true nature, and when you can challenge resistance, when you can challenge it, when you can say, no, I see you, resistance, and I am stronger than you. I can make a choice. I have my free will. I am not a smoker. When you challenge the very nature of your ego, which is resistance, identifies you very, very strongly as a smoker. When you challenge that belief, that value, I don't want to smoke. I am not a smoker. I will not do this. This is not for me anymore. When you challenge it to that depth, you become a non-smoker. When you just say, oh, I hope I can resist the temptation to smoke, you will never become a non-smoker, because resistance will always be there, giving you a stronger reason. You have to challenge those very beliefs that you are a smoker, those very habits, those very beliefs and values that you hold about smoking at an egoic level, at an identity level. And when you do that, you smash through the barrier that has been the challenge of holding you back. And yes, it may still be challenging as you go forward through this nicotine withdrawal. But when you believe And when you've made a stand, when you've taken a stand against the resistance, against your identity itself, and said, no more. My values don't align with this. I am not a smoker. I don't choose to smoke. I know the dangers of smoking. I am not going to do this. I am not a smoker and I will not smoke. I don't identify with this in any way anymore. That, my friends, is when you actually break through the barrier of resistance. You see it clearly. You become a non-smoker. Let's take losing weight and getting in shape. Again, another very easy example to understand. Okay? We have someone who is obese, who's overweight, and who's not fit, and wants desperately to change this. But they fall prey to resistance every single time. Their ego says, you're not worth it, you can't do it. These are our patterns, we like to eat this. This is our pattern, we eat these at certain times. You know, we do these activities, we don't go to the gym. We don't eat those foods. So resistance throws up excuses, reasons at a very, very deep level, at the level of your identity, at the level of your actual ego and the identity that you've created for yourself. Resistance becomes the enemy. Resistance is a very strong opponent. Like I said, it gets in the way every time this person goes to put their running shoes on and go for a run. It gets in the way every time. Their good intentions want to take them to the gym. Every time they're standing in front of that box of cookies or bag of chips or big meal that they swore they would not eat. Resistance, temptation is there. Resistance is there to tempt. It is there to remind them that this is who they are. And they believe it. They fall prey to this resistance because it is a difficult opponent. It's always there. It's stronger than them. It's hard. It is super hard. But it is not until they see resistance for what it is and challenge the resistance itself. It is not until they say, I am no longer overweight. I am no longer sedentary. I am no longer this person, this pattern, this identity. It is not until they really go within themselves and smash this identity and see themselves as a fit, healthy, vibrant person that they want to be. And they say, no more. I will not eat these chips anymore. I will not eat these cookies. No more. There is no excuse that can hold me back from putting on my running shoes and going to the gym. There is no excuse left that you can give me resistance because I see you. You're the compass. You are telling me exactly what I need to overcome, exactly what I need to challenge in my own identity in order to become the person that I want, the truest version of myself, right? Doing something. And I see you, you are trying to teach me this, and you are a fierce opponent, but no more. I am getting on my running shoes. I am getting on my running shoes. Another sea glass. This video is timely. This is a sign. If you are listening to this video, keep listening. This video is meant for you right here, right now. So this resistance is hard. It is challenging. It is powerful. It is this invisible force that, protects your ego and your created identity at all costs. It makes you feel bad about yourself. It makes you have this low self-esteem and low self-worth. And it allows you to succumb to these excuses and these challenges in front of you because you feel like it's insurmountable. You feel like this resistance is insurmountable, and it is such a strong opponent. It never gives up. It never gets tired. It keeps coming. It keeps showing up. So it's not until you challenge your identity. I will no longer live like this. There is nothing you can put in front of me that I will not overcome. It is a choice every time, and I am going to make it. I am now going to make the choice to become fit and to become thin. This is what I've chosen to eat, and I will not deviate from this. This is my exercise routine, and I will not let any excuse, no matter how hard you throw them at me, get in between me and the thing I want most in my life. I will put my shoes on. I will shut the cupboard door, which is really the hardest part. Really, it's not the exercising that's the hardest part. It's not the actual act of walking. This person can do that. It's the act of putting on the shoes in the face of resistance. It's the act of shutting the cupboard door when you're standing there looking at the thing that you want to eat and resistance is strong. It's these small acts. And when you challenge it, when you say, no, I'm no longer that person. I no longer succumb to that pattern. I no longer believe that identity about myself. You shatter resistance and you actually then move forward towards your goal. And if you keep following it, if you keep at it, if you keep staring down the face of resistance, it's only a matter of time before the results show up. And a year from now, you are fit, you are healthy, and you have smashed through your egoic identity and created a new one. You are who you say you are. You are who you wanted to be. You are fit, you are healthy, you are the person that you long to be. And resistance did not beat you. It did not stand in your way. It made you stronger. It was your teacher. Okay, so let's take one last example. Let's take anxiety. Anxiety is harder to see. So this will get us a little closer, but it's also something very specific, so it's easy to understand. Let's say that you are anxious. You have anxiety. You have social anxiety. Maybe, you're afraid in crowded spaces, in public spaces, in elevators, in, different social settings, in big crowded auditoriums. And you look for the door and you want to escape and you have panic attacks. And this grows and grows until your world gets smaller and smaller. You start to have agoraphobia. You start to be even afraid to leave your own home, to walk down the street. You start to be afraid of the symptoms of anxiety itself, rather than just being out in public. You're afraid of any little sensation that comes along where you think you might be about to have a panic attack. So from anyone who's ever suffered from anxiety, and I had a long, drawn-out affair with anxiety, with all forms of anxiety, including agoraphobia. So let's just take this, for example, when we look at it through the lens of resistance. In this case, you are resisting fear itself. You're resisting the fear itself that you feel. The fear is overpowering. It's overwhelming to the point where it causes physical sensations and emotional sensations that are so overpowering in the form of resistance, in the form of this excuse, in the form of your body trying to stop you, resistance trying to stop you from doing and being who it is that you want to be in this life. You want to go to those events. You want to go, with your children to their gymnasium. You want to go to that concert. You want to go to that ball game. You want to drive your car. You want to walk down the street. You want to feel good in your body. You want to have these experiences. But resistance is there to stop you. No, you're afraid. These aren't for you. These experiences aren't for you. And you've created an identity, an anxiety identity that says, I can't have that, I can't do that. The fear is too strong. The fear in this case is the tool that resistance uses. It is an effective tool. It's an effective tool, and it goes right to the heart of your fight or flight system. It goes right to the heart of your central nervous system. It goes right to the heart of your ego, the identity that you have created. And as a fearful person, as somebody who lets fear beat them, as somebody who cannot withstand these sensations, the physical sensations or the emotional sensations that come along with fear, you've built an identity that says that is too powerful for me. So it's an effective tool that resistance uses in order to stop you from being who you want to be, from achieving all that you can achieve in this lifetime, from being the truest version of yourself and being able to be free in this world, to go where you want and to be who you want at all times. And so it's chosen this tool of fear, a very effective tool, right? Fear is one of our strongest emotions. And we have a built-in danger system that really responds effectively to fear-based signals and sensations. But fear is not working alone here. Fear is being sent as a tool by resistance. What are you resisting? Who are you resisting being? Right? What is the identity, the false identity that stands between you and the power to look this fear in the face, to say that you're stronger than fear, to create an identity where you believe that the fear is not stronger than you, that the symptoms can't hurt you, they can't touch you, they can't destroy you, and that in fact they are your friend and they are your teacher. They are showing you the exact things that you need to face, the exact experiences that you need to challenge and walk through in order to get to the other side of fear. Because when we get to the other side of fear and see that we're okay, see that we did not die, see that nothing happened to us, right? See that we can challenge fear, build our self-esteem, build our relationship with courage and our belief in ourselves to get through these moments, then we can start to build a new identity. We challenge the ego itself. We challenge the identity and the story itself of that I'm an anxious person. I'm just anxious. I can't control this anxiety. I don't know how to overcome this anxiety. That's all resistance. That is all resistance, using anxiety and fear as a tool to stand between you and the highest version of yourself, you and who you truly are, you and what you truly want. And when we succumb to anxiety, when we succumb to this fear, when we succumb to this egoic version of ourselves, that this identity, this fear-based identity, that we have anxiety and we can't overcome this, we let this resistance, we let these excuses, we let the fear stop us from doing what we want and living the life we want. And it's not until we challenge it, until we change it at an identity level, until we become the person who says, this is more important to me than fear. Going with my child to their gymnasium to watch them perform something is more important than the fear, and I'm going to step through it. I'm going to challenge it. I may look ridiculous. I may embarrass myself. It may be challenging, but I am stronger than it. This is not my identity. I am not going to let myself become an anxious person with an anxious identity. I am strong. I am courageous. I will face you every time you arise, fear. And when we tell ourselves that we are no longer driven or reacting to fear or anxiety, and that we will stand strong in the face of whatever anxiety tries to throw at us, and that every single time we will go through it. When we build an identity, a new identity that says, I can rise to this challenge, I can walk through this anxiety every single time, that is how we beat anxiety, because we challenge our beliefs, our patterns, our values, and this false identity of who and what we are. And we say, no, that is not who and what I am. I am more than fear. I am more than anxiety. I can do this and I will do this. I will face you, resistance, in the form of fear, in the form of anxiety. I will face you every time. And when we do that, we build a new identity. We build an identity of courage and inner strength and resilience. We build somebody that we can rely on. We can begin to build an identity where we rely on ourselves, where we believe in ourselves, where we draw from our strength and our resilience. And where we begin to build an identity as we build success on success, facing our fears and our anxieties, we start to see that we are more than that, that we can have more than that, that we can become more than that. And when we start to become that version of ourselves, when we start to build this version of ourselves and become the highest version of who it is that we are meant to be, and not let this force of resistance or force of, fear or anxiety, which is really resistance to being who and what we want. It's the resistance. It's the tool that resistance uses to stop us from being and having the life of our dreams. And when we let it, our self-esteem crumbles, right? Our identity crumbles. When we face it, when we face this resistance, when we stand up to it, when we say, no, that is not me, that's not going to be me. And even though it's going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to rise to it every single time. Then we are more than that, and we can have more than that. And we push ourselves and we push our boundaries and we face our greatest, sensations and emotions and physical, limitations. And we see what we're made of. And when we build an identity on courage and self-esteem and belief in ourselves. And when we believe we can have what we want and that we're going after it no matter what, then anxiety dies, the condition dies, the label dies. And even if we ever feel those sensations, that is not us. That is not who we are. And when we no longer identify with it, that is no longer a condition that affects us. In our life, the label dies, the diagnosis dies, because it was never truly who we were. And so if we continue to face that type of resistance in our life every single time and stand up to it and become who we want to be and not let this, challenge overcome us, then in a year, however long it takes, we are that person. We no longer submit to anxiety. We no longer have that condition. It takes time. It's not always followed by the instantaneous decision one time. It's a repetition, just like the smoking, just like the losing weight, just like the anxiety condition. We face resistance. We stare down the ego. We dismantle the false self, and we step through it. We become who we are truly meant to be and get what we truly want in this life. So I hope you can see what resistance is and how it is this murky thing that we can't always put our finger on, and we don't always see that that's what's happening in the moment, that it's us and resistance, and that the longer we let resistance beat us, the more of a smoker we become, the more overweight and sedentary we become, the more anxious, and the more the condition grows over time. And it's this disease or this illness or this condition or this problem that we have in our life is the byproduct of resistance itself, of not facing resistance over and over in a pattern form for long enough to create this. Resistance comes in many different forms. It comes in the form of an excuse. It comes in the form of a sensation. It comes in the form of an emotion. It comes in the form of a pattern. It comes in the form of believing that it's too hard for us, that it's too much, that we're not strong enough. It comes in many different forms and ways that it's hard to pinpoint and always and often see that this resistance has worn us down over time and has created a false identity, our ego, that is a total construct and can be broken at any time if we challenge it, if we step through it, and if we challenge those beliefs and values and patterns, and we create new ones that we want, and we stand up every time and we see the resistance fades. Resistance can be overcome. Resistance is there to teach us, not to harm us. And when we can start to face it and see it, we understand it's protecting this ego, this identity. It is there to keep us safe. The ego wants to keep us safe. That is its job. Keep us out of danger, keep us safe, and protect us. But when we challenge it, because we want to become who we truly are, we want more for our lives, for ourselves, like we see other people doing. And we know that if they can have it, we can have it too, if we will only face this resistance in all the forms that it may come to us. Then we can shatter our identities, we can shatter our egos, we can build new ones, we can create new identities, and we can become versions of ourselves that, shatter these old ones, that make these old ones non-existent anymore. And we can become who it is we truly want to come. We can go from these low vibrations and these low patterns and these low lives that we're living into high ones, high vibrations, high energies, and high aspirations and dreams and values. And we can become closer to the real version of ourselves, the truest part of ourselves that has no limitations at all. Because the truest part of you is the part that is everything, is the part that comes directly from source, directly from God, that is a fragment of Source itself, of God itself. And therefore, there are no limitations. There are no barriers. There is nothing but love. There is nothing standing in your way, because you can be it all and have it all and do it all, because you are from the highest source imaginable. You are part of that, and you have access to that, and that is truly you. And so when we can get closest to this part of ourselves, to this version of ourselves, you know, to the part that has no limitations, and when we can believe that, when we can step into a new belief and shatter an old one, we shatter part of our ego. We shatter part of the fake character that we're playing that is not who we truly are. So this has actually been a long video. So I'm going to plan to tackle chronic illness in the next video. I've given you the examples. I've given you a really good idea of how this works, what resistance is, and how it plays out. So if you like this video, if you'd like to see the all-encompassing video now with the example of chronic illness, please give it a like, and I will see you in tomorrow's video part 2.